Testing, testing. Daryl, Daryl, right here. Is it like to give you guys my phone? Yeah. Just hold it. It's really bad. Okay, ready to start? All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, 5:30 p.m. Can we please have roll call?
Chair Ryan,
Here?
Vice Chair Llewellyn,
Here.
Board Member Davis,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Board Member Salvino, CRA Director Chen,
Here.
City Attorney Bootsis,
Here.
Okay, thank you. No citizen comments. Okay, let's skip to the administrative report.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and board members. Just to bring you up to date on our incubator situation, the tenant improvements are still underway. Our landlord is meeting with community development to work through some coordination with the building permit, but it's online, and we're hoping to receive notice that it'll be available for occupancy within the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, FIU has continued with their programming. Just last week, they held a small business innovation research program, which is it was a workshop to help teach businesses how to successfully apply for federal grants for startups and technology businesses. It was a panel of 4 people who have successfully received grants for their businesses, and it was really informative. A very, very good program, and it is considered part of the EDA's 10 and 5 objective, as well as the Department of Energy's IP to market. Dania After Dark, I have described this as temporarily suspended with the idea that we will coordinate with the city to transfer the production of this event over to the Parks Department. And again, we can coordinate in whatever fashion is necessary for doing that. As to the CRA plan upcoming workshop, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Chen.
It is required that we do a public notice of our intent to amend the CRA plan. That public notice was done in the Sun Sentinel on January 30th to be in compliance with section 163.358. Also, so with this, the VHB will be here again to discuss the revised draft of the plan after your January discussion workshop, and we hope to be able to move that plan toward adoption. I will advise you that by state statutes, to make an amendment on the plan requires both an action by the CRA, but it also requires adoption by the city commission. So it will be on both of your agendas on that night. For a past project, the 509 to 511 Northwest 3rd Terrace. This is a CRA-owned duplex that you approved to sell for the use and rehab of affordable housing. In fact, it was specific low-income affordable housing. That sale was closed, and the recorded deed and um, declaration of covenants are attached for your reference as required by the resolution. Coming back around to the honor the legacy arts in public places. Um, we have worked with Joanna Granite, who has volunteered to be your guide so we can do an official ribbon cutting and finally acknowledge this fine work of public art that is along the City Hall circle. We are suggesting that we do a walking tour at 5 p.m. on March 14th, which is at 5 o'clock prior to the CRA meeting, so that it should be just, you have to arrive a little bit early, but it's not kind of inconvenience you for additional schedule. If that's all right for you, I will send out a notice for that 5 o'clock walking tour.
Everyone's okay with that? 5 p.m. All right, perfect.
Thank you. I'll send out a notice on your calendar for that. I was contacted by a representative of the Dania Beach Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is producing a 2023 Community Business and Visitors Guide, and they've asked the CRA to be an advertiser in that program. The piece that they're doing is kind of an odd shape. It's 4 inches wide by 9 inches tall. And a full page ad in that publication is $1,695 with a couple of $100 premium for placement within the book. This actually falls within my discretion, but I want to be engaged with you on it. I would like to do the full page ad for a price not to exceed $2,000, again, with your approval.
Do I have approval? Motion? I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner James. Commissioner.
I say yes.
Yeah, he doesn't need it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you have the approval.
I'm just looking for a consensus here.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. The CRA hosted the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance just last week. The Partners Committee meeting, the Partners Council meeting was held in the Northwest Conference Room of City Hall. And it's always an interesting meeting. This is economic development leadership across the county, including other cities. There was a very strong presentation on the Marine Research Hub, which is a collaboration among the various universities with oceanographic research programs, as well as with the Marine Industries Association of South Florida. They are very engaged in trying to attract entrepreneurial development, entrepreneurial talent to South Florida for oceanographic research that goes everything from developing artificial reef systems to 3D printed seawall technologies to biological research and medicinal purposes coming out of the ocean. And they are very interested in hooking up and developing a connection with the IP to market incubator. I'll bring you more news on that as we go. There's a new task force that's being put together with Visit Florida. It's called the Coastal City Tourism Task Force. And the concept is all the coastal cities of Broward County have been invited to join and meet on a monthly basis with Visit Florida to discuss how we can work together to better and more effectively promote the coastal cities of Broward County. They have already had now a second meeting, and we will be regular participants in that venue to see how we can attract more of our share of tourism. And of course, part of this is as our arts and entertainment district emerged, we are looking for Visit Florida to find a way to promote and advise people of that so we can draw tourism for that. Not directly associated with the CRA, but certainly in the CRA and important to us, Saratoga Crossings 3 is about to open. This is a 75-unit building. All of the units are developed to be low income affordable or lower cost thresholds. And 15 of the 75 units are set aside for seniors. They started construction in January 22 and have just run through their construction. They expect to be completed and being able to start moving people in March, April of 23. So this is just around the corner for a significant addition to our supply of low income affordable housing. As to the Bravo visits, Associates MD provides a wide range of urgent care services, occupational health services, physical exams and diagnostics, open 7 days a week. And they also offer programs such as weight loss, and their services are covered by most insurance. The Miracle Leaf Health Center. This is a CBD product in Dania Beach. It's been here since 2018. And in addition to various products that have CBD content, and in case you're not aware of that acronym, it's a cannabis product. They also will assist people who are seeking to get their CBD medical card that entitles them to buy in Florida. Bears Furniture. This is an old institution in Dania Beach. They've been at their current location since the 1970s. Full design services and some of the highest quality furniture available in typical furniture stores in the region. Very valuable contribution to home decor based in Dania Beach. The Vape and Smoke Shop. It was a chain founded in 2013. It started in Miami. They now have 6 locations, including now in Dania Beach. They have a wide variety of products ranging from hand-blown glass, cigars, e-liquids, vaporizers, hookahs, tobacco, smoking, and accessories, including shirts and clothing, just to identify where your stance is on those subjects. Life Storage is an important facility, and in fact, it will gain even more importance as we have more and more of the apartment units that are opening in Dania Beach. This is a full-service storage facility. It is fully air conditioned and humidity controlled. They are a fully secure building, including the elevator system, which is key coded to the floors on which your unit is at. So it prevents people from wandering around the building. Currently, excuse me. Currently, they offer unit sizes from 5 by 5 up to 10 by 30, and they are at about 85% of capacity today. We have a new Cuban restaurant. They call themselves Cuban Comfort Foods at 37 South Federal Highway, basically just to the east side of Federal Highway across from where we're sitting tonight. This is actually their second location in Dania Beach, their first being on the west end of Griffin Road. And the Little Cuban Cafe was voted one of the top 25 Cuban restaurants in the United States. So we have recognition and very good opportunities for genuine Cuban foods. I'm going to have to excuse my pronunciation about this. It seems like I need to buy a vowel. Ebix Mobility and Electric Bicycles. Again, basically just to the east of us on Federal Highway at 35 South Federal Highway. It is an electric bike shop. And in addition to their currently somewhat limited inventory of electric bikes, they also do service and repairs on bicycles and electric bicycles. On January 19th, the CRA finally received the 2022 Smart Growth Excellence Award at the Smart Growth Partnership's annual meeting. We had our entire group from the patch attend and receive that award on behalf of the patch. The theme of the annual meeting was Impact of Public Art on Communities, and I was invited to be a panel speaker. And of course, my presentation was presentation of Dania Beach Arts and Innovation District. Patch has started their, again, what I describe as the Patch in the Box program. It is the pre-prescription purchase of produce. And again, I can't tell you how much produce your subscription buys. It's more than my wife and I can eat over a period of 2 weeks. It's a very good deal for fresh, locally grown produce, non-GMO, genetic standard. It's going to be, it's just really a good deal, and I highly recommend anyone who is a fan of produce to try this. It's a very good deal. This has been an ongoing subject that was approved some time ago. It has finally taken some time. The shed, the new shed for the patch, is finally scheduled for delivery and setup. It will be set up in March, and it will provide a whole new additional facility for storing foods in preparation for distribution at events, including patch in a box and that type of thing. It expands the storage capacity for immediate pickup. The patch opening hours have continued to be extended. They are open Monday through Friday from 8 to 11 for walk-in customers who can come in and inquire about what's fresh picked and what can be bought today. And with that, that's my admin report.
Question.
Vice Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes, thank you. So I am constantly getting questions from residents about Dania After Dark and what the plan is in the future. And I know that there was discussion previously about putting it under Parks and Recreation in the city, but if that's the case, do we need to do something in order to move it to that, move the whole process along?
Thank you. And yes, we will work with that. And in fact, shortly, I'm going to do a discussion about a strategic action plan. And one among the things in my action plan is to make the formal transition, as well as help the city and Parks and Rec with any transition activities they need. I have also been answering inquiries from the public as to the status of that. And what I've described it as is that it's a temporary interruption to make it a bigger and better event for the public.
And I appreciate that, but it's going to take time, I would think, for the city to move forward with that. And I don't know if the city manager is sitting here if you want to discuss that at all. But I'm just concerned that if we aren't moving it forward, it's going to take a long time to get it back online. And I don't want to see it hesitate, because the problem is that, like I said, you're getting calls too. I'm getting calls. I'm getting people stopping me. I'm getting, at least 4 or 5 times a week. So that's why it's a concern that it's something that I think we need to address. So
If I may, through the mayor, as you know, when we do something, we want to do it right. So throwing that out there, I'm willing and able to work with my Parks and Recreation department to take this over. I don't know if you guys have to do something officially here and then do something officially at a commission meeting. But we haven't sat down, and we need to respect, Eric Brown and Cassie Warren, who's coming back from maternity. We need to make sure that we have, and I've discussed this individually with you all, that we have a special events coordinator that continues to work with Parks and Recreation to move this event forward. I think that there's great opportunities, but that handoff needs to come without any fumble, so we can secure that ball and score lots of touchdowns and ensure that we're bringing something of quality. And if there's any procurement or anything that needs to be done in regards to budget and personnel, everything is aligned with success.
I think really my question is, what do we need to do? I mean, do we need to get a consensus? Do we need to have a vote? Do we need to do some type of procurement process for this? What do we need to do to move to the next step? Absolutely. That's why I'm trying to find out what we're supposed to be doing about it, because it's just sitting. So,
All right. I'm not aware of any resolution or mandate as to who is responsible for this. This has traditionally been done. It was started and has been carried on annually by the CRA. But if it is your, I guess, preference and desire for this to be moved, I will set up a meeting with Anna next week, and we'll do the official internal handoff and see what needs to be done and figure out how to best facilitate and accommodate the transition.
Board Member Salvino, I know you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I got two things. So Michael, you're talking about the elevator that gives a room, the floor key when you get on the floor. What happens if you have a friend upstairs?
I'm sorry.
Remember you said the key to the storage. I missed something? Yeah, okay. I'm going back to something else.
Oh, the life storage,
storage.
Bravo visit.
You said it only stops at the floor that they're on. I
That's
said, what
part
happens
of
if
their
they have, what happens
security
if they have a
feature.
friend that they're helping on another floor and they're supposed to go up there and meet them? How
Oh,
they
well,
get up there?
They advertise that as part of their security measures, that not only is the building locked and secured, but the floor is keyed so that
Yeah, I got that
unit
part.
owners can only get to their floor.
And what happens if they want to go up, help somebody in the next floor? How do they get up there?
Well, they need that unit owner to go with them to
Okay.
initiate the elevator.
I don't like that. But, okay, the other thing is too, I think you might want to elaborate a little bit on the cost factors in the process for the patch on how to get your vegetables so everybody knows how to do that. Just give us a short summary. The value.
Like, how do you sign up? What's it worth?
Oh, okay, thank you. Gives me a chance to advertise for the patch.
Yeah.
The subscription to carry the entire piece, basically it is run from February through April. It's every 2 weeks on Saturdays, you pick up a box of produce. The total cost of that subscription is $240. They will prorate it if you have a late buy-in. And also, there are some limitations as to how much money an EBIT buyer can spend using their accounts. So we are able to break it down to a weekly purchase price to accommodate the EBIT buyers. But it's $240 for the full length subscription.
How many pickups is that? About 8 pickups?
Yeah, I think it's about 8 pickups.
Thank you.
Board Member James?
Thanks, Chair. I wanted to have some discussion about the day after dark. When it comes down to the alcohol sales and alcohol consumption, I want to make sure, I'm not sure what we are allowed to do as a municipality, but I do know that that's a big part of it. And I'm not sure if how that challenge is going to be met with the city being able to either get someone else to outsource the alcohol portion of it or the bar portion of it, or I guess I want to know, are we allowed to be involved in that part? I know with art and seafood, we had to get a producer because of those reasons. And with other events that we have other organizations do that. So I want to know a little bit about how that's going, how is that going to be a seamless process?
Well, I guess there could be some production issues depending on who is actually holding the event. But I think that would be part of the transition discussion that we will work with the city manager and
That's what we're
Parks
having
Department.
now. But
And-
isn't that what we're having now? Because if you're saying you're going to just hand this off next week, I want to know what we can and can't do. Like this, it doesn't seem realistic. It doesn't seem as simple as we want it to be. We want it to be simple. We all want Daniel After Dark, but there's a lot of legalities that go into certain things that I don't want any of us sitting up here to have to answer to because we didn't cross our T's and dot our I's.
Through the mayor, I totally agree with. I don't mind a handoff, but all these things I don't know any of these things. And it's very important that we know what challenges, the expectations, because if I'm going to deliver on something, I need to know and sit with my team and make sure that we have all the resources. We know all the legalities, but
Does-
we just say we're going to meet next week and here you go. No, no, no.
What's
Does
what's our
anyone
current
know?
deal with, well, what was the previous deal we had with the liquor, company?
It was turnkey. It was
It was
turnkey.
turnkey.
We give them we give them the money and they did everything. They procured everything. You know, even the insurance for the whole thing. I think that we need to really understand that the insurance factor that the producer has for the food trucks is is not cheap. It's not cheap, and so that's an additional cost that the city is going to have. And so I don't know. Does anyone have that answer as to if the city can host this event and be in charge of alcohol sales? City attorney, someone?
Sorry, it has been raised to me, but the reality is we either are gonna be doing it in-house or we can hire someone to do it for us, and we just have to get the details on that.
So we can sell alcohol as a city?
If I,
You can get a vendor.
a vendor, and my recommendation would be, I believe that the oversight belongs under the people that do special events year round for the entire city. So I have no problems with us being the head coach of this, but this will probably be something that we will work with Frank and with procurement and our Parks and Recreation team to put out an RFP. But the buck will stop with us. But in regards to the procurement, it may be that we still use an outside vendor, but we will have boots on the ground and we'll make sure that what you guys want to see in regards to the success and the marketing and the hands-on is going on with that as well. But it may be that we do outsources, that we don't run it in-house.
I would like to see like a cost breakdown analysis of what this is going to cost. What it will cost the city to do the entire thing, even if that means, contracting out because you're going to need more staff. This is a very heavy lift. This was a very heavy lift for the CRA and to put it on, our city staff and team who already has a lot of things going on. I'm not sure financially what that looks like, and everything that was broken down and that the producer was doing, what those expenses are going to look like when it comes down just to us, those connections that they had. I'm not sure that we have those. And even if I know our team is great in doing events, but this is a different beast. It's a different animal. And do we have that type of experience in doing those types of events? And how do we keep the art infused in this and not do away with those small vendors? And so I don't want to make a decision on it before we really see what it looks like in front of us. And I know that we're all anxious. I had a thing on mine, a reminder of Day After Dark, and I was upset that it's not happening. I get it, but I don't want to prematurely do anything and it's not responsible on our end.
So through the mayor, respectfully, whatever connections or relationships they had, I've been in their business of relationships and special events for the past 30 years. So
No, I know. I'm
And-
just talking about like staff and you can't do it all. I know you have connections and everything else, but this is going to fall on your Parks and Recreation staff, the people that are doing those special events, and I don't want to overwhelm them.
no, and I will always be very transparent in regards to what we can handle and what we can't. Basically, they had a full-time individual in Keisha that is no longer part of that team, and Keisha was taking a big role in that, and Michael or the former CRA director had the oversight. So we would be doing more or less the same thing, but it would be with a different vision and with the deliverable based on what you all have discussed with me, that you want to continue to see this program grow and evolve. And I'll just give you an example. You saw 3 4 years ago how we started with the Kwanzaa or how we started with the tree lighting and where we're at today and the things that we've done.
Yes.
But it's a process. This is not something that we can start tomorrow or next month or the month after that. It's got to be a process that requires X amount of months and X amount of studies.
Right.
Um,
So I just wanted to continue to further. I just didn't want to make any decisions today. This is an already established event that already has an established expectations of some sort. And so I don't want to have huge drop off. I do want to have, that clean cut handing off if that's the direction that we're going to go in. of and how we can enhance it and make it better. But before we make any decisions, this is my last thing. I just want to see what it looks like financially in front of us.
And we will meet with the CRA and my team. I will bring in Frank and our CFO and our deputy city manager and our director of Parks and Recreation and our deputy director of Parks and Recreation. We will ask for all the financials. We will take a look at that. We will meet with our city attorney in regards to what the city can or cannot do. And then we will come up with a timeline and be transparent in regards to all those numbers for you guys, because we don't want to take anything over if it's not something that we can make bigger and better based on your expectations. If
Thank
not,
you.
it could stay right where it's at.
Thank you.
And if I may, I mean, when I say transition it over, it wasn't suggested that we just simply drop it on the city manager's desk and leave it there. Basically, all of the production was done by Atlantic Studios. I will provide the scope of work that was in their description. If you're going to do an event of that similar in nature to this, that's the work that's going to be done. The scope of work is there regardless of who does it. So you have to decide what your manpower is, which of those functions you want to do yourself, which ones you want to outsource to the vendors. I can tell you that as the contract was ended, we were paying $8,000 a month for that service. And as to Keisha being the hands-on manager of that, because of the comprehensive service that was provided by Atlantic Studios, her total time consumption on managing this was probably about 8 to 10 hours a month. All right. It required very little hands-on. At least that's what that was the approach to it, because the production company did all the work.
And maybe that's what it needed. Maybe it needed more hands-on from the CRA.
Maybe it
Well,
did.
I say the team of the CRA in regards to, expectations and the drive and the enthusiasm and the deliverables.
But we can certainly go over all of the particulars as to what it takes to put it on. Everything from the event permit to the inspection of the food trucks. These are things that went on with every month that this event was there. We have the full description of the scope of work, that we sit down and talk with the city manager and her staff and figure out, she can figure out where the resources are, what the preference is, and how it gets managed based on the resources and preferences. Absolutely.
Board Member Davis?
Yes, thank you. I had a similar concern because of the fact that I believe the last time that this went out for an RFP, that this company that currently did it was the only one who responded. And so if it's not like, oh, let's just look at it and we can go out to an RFP and get all these vendors, because this is a major production that brings a certain expectation. And to think that we're just going to be able to go out there and get an RFP when nobody responded the last time doesn't seem realistic to me, unless there's just new production companies out there. So it did sound like when you said we're going to do a transition that it was just going to be like, okay, immediate, we'll go over to Parks and Rec, but an $8,000 a month production is not just something that I believe that Parks and Rec can just take over and have the ability, the production, the vendors, and have put on such a major production without outsourcing. And the fact is that when we did try to go and outsource, we only got one person back who's not willing to work with us anymore. So I think we need to be a little bit more realistic about what that looks like and how we're going to do it. Because if we're promising the public something bigger and better in the future, then that's what it needs to be. Or we need to just, scratch it and call it something else, or do something else until we can get it to the level that it needs to be. Thank you.
Board Member Salvino?
Holy mackerel. I honestly think that we're overthinking this a lot. I think that when you lay out a format of how to run anything, whether it's a party or an event or whatever, once you lay it out there and you secure, your food trucks, you secure that everybody knows about the jewelry and the stuff they sell through the tents, and You get your stage and stuff that we should look into if we're going to continue to grow as a city to buy our own stage. And then we'd have all these things in order. And I think after the first month, and if we have to take and hire either another person that can help expand this particular thing and put them in charge of special events, which we intend to have more and more of as we grow. I don't think it's as big as everybody's making it out to be. I mean, I've seen stuff get put together, and let me tell you, after what they did for the holidays, they did a great job, Parks and Recreation. And I think that we're overreacting. I think if we could just set this aside and give the city manager and the CRA director, maybe if possible, maybe by the city commission meeting at the end of the month, or possibly the next CRA city commission meeting in a month, and come back instead of just talking about it, have a plan put in order, have it in front of us where we can read it and go from there. But I think that we're overreacting. I think it's an easier transition than I believe it's an easier transition than we're making it out to be. So that's how I feel about it. So if I could ask the city manager and the CRA director, can you think you can have it ready in 2 weeks or 4 weeks to kind of give us a plan? Whether or not you have the staff, at least a plan on what's going on. Like athletic board member James asked a little bit about the finances and stuff like that. So I like to know, do we charge the food trucks? If we do charge the food trucks to be there, or do they pay us? I mean, do we have to pay them or do they pay us? Certain things like people put the tents up, we pay them or we pay us. We get all that stuff in and out. Those are the things that we should have laid out, and who's able to do this.
We would get together with the CRA, but I would also meet with successful organizations such as like Stacy Ritter, a Lori Bear from the PEA, Daniel Point. I would want to get together with people here in our county that are putting tremendous successful events already, and you don't really have to go too far. We can go down the street to Dania Point and meet with their marketing director, former commissioner and now CRA manager. Bill Harris and I have met with the likes of Stacy Ritter. I've met with Lori Bear from the PA. These are already individuals that we work with that are putting fantastic events together. So I think we tap into that, come up with a game plan, and in the next meeting in March for the CRA, have some preliminary, ideas. But I think everything that you all have brought forward today is a concern, and I just want to make sure that we're able to deliver, and that our team is ready with your expectations.
Thank you.
Thank you, board member. Thank you, manager. Vice Chair Llewellyn.
Thank you, board chair. I always forget where we are. So I'm glad this discussion is happening because this was my whole point. There's a lot of times things that we see in the different reports that are there. We know what's going on, but we don't know what's going on, and they're not being moved forward. So my intent was to get this moving forward so that we can start doing something, because otherwise, next thing you know, it's going to be 6 months and nothing has happened. So we need to jump on this now. We need to keep it moving, and we need to see what the expenses are going to be, what the needs are going to be, and make sure that we are continuing to move it forward so it doesn't just sit and go away, because clearly it's something that the city wants. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, my thoughts on this is it is Valentine's Day, and we paid $175,000 for a big heart, and we're really not utilizing it at all. So that is disappointing, I would say. And what's the next holiday coming up? St. Patrick's Day. So, and then after that, it's Easter. We could really focus a lot of these events just around the holidays that are coming up for that month. And it's all out there. We've done it already. We've done Dating After Dark for a long time, and it's been somewhat successful. But now I guess that we're hitting the pause button, taking a step back, and you guys are all analyzing the pros and cons of it. And if we could combine Parks and Rec, not combine, but move it to Parks and Rec, I have no doubt that they'll do a fine job. I thought the CRA is doing a decent job also. But the biggest thing is, like Vice Chair Llewellyn said, we just have to get moving on it, and we got to put something out there. We're just wasting our resources that we have. That's all. I definitely want to do it right and have all the finances in order, but we've saved $20,000 so far by not throwing it for the last 2 months. And my final point is we need to make sure that, I touched on this briefly with the city attorney, we just have to make sure that we lock in the contract. We kind of fumbled by not locking them in on a contract a few months beforehand. You know, they kind of just said in January, we're done, and that was it. We went, okay, I guess we're not having Danny After Dark. So we're just stuck not doing anything with nowhere to move because we didn't really lock in this production company or give them a penalty for breaking the contract. So I think if we do outsource and hire another production company, we could just prepare a little more of a cancellation clause, 9-day notice, something like that. That's all I have to say. All right, so we can move on to the presentations. I see our action plan by Director Chen.
Thank you, and I'd like to step down to the podium to face you for the presentation. Okay, thank you very much. The first slide of the presentation is up in front of you, and I expect you're also able to see it with your monitors. Next slide, please. Just wanted to let you know that this presentation is going to take you back for a little bit of history so you can see where the CRA has been. And in fact, some of the discussion about the Dania After Dark and arts and seafood and public art and so forth, how the CRA got in the middle of this in the first place is kind of also brought to light in this presentation. And as some of you have been on the board for a long time, you know the history, but some of you don't know it. And so I want to cover the bases. So some of the CRA accomplishments, we were a very active part of the rebrand and marketing campaign that came with the city. We were part of the program that came up with the city's motto, see it, live it, love it. See it, love it, live it, sorry. Also, the logo, the monument signage and so forth. The monument signage were actually put in place by the CRA. Next slide, please. We also managed the bus wraps, the mural project, the billboard and so forth that promoted the city and its logo for marketing and rebranding. Next slide, please. We were an integral piece of the public arts. Again, with the murals, with the Arts and Seafood Festival. The arts is a major component of that event. We also have the Honor of the Legacy, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, and finally dedicating that piece of public art in an appropriate manner. We also work very closely with the quality of life. At Home Dania Beach was actually the construction of 6 low-income houses that were constructed and then sold under CRA program. We worked with Rebuilding Together to revitalize and refresh our neighborhoods. In January, you had a presentation by Rebuilding Together, and I think they summarized that their activity in Dania Beach, they have rehabbed over 314 houses in the community. And we've already executed the contract for them to do their next 40 houses during 2023. Also, the patch is a very well recognized community asset and quality of life piece, promoting good health and healthful eating. And I just mentioned the award we received from the Smart Growth Partnership because of its stature and its contributions to the health of the community. And then the final piece, I always talk about the Dania Beach Business Academy in the context of business. But our last program was a first-time homebuyers program, trying to help people understand how to go from being a renter to a buyer and what they needed to do to prepare themselves for that transition. Next slide, please. We also have been very busy in the business environment as well. The Spirit Airlines headquarters, the incentives that were provided to Spirit Airlines to attract them to stay in Broward County and specifically headquarter into Dania Point in Dania Beach. There were 3 incentives that were brought together: QTI, HIPPY, and Brownfield incentives. The total value of those incentives was $1.8 million. And Dania Beach's local share of that was $135,000. Okay, the CRA is right in the middle of that negotiation and discussion with Spirit Airlines. The Celeste, that was incorporated into Broward. Broward redevelopment program provided a $1 million grant specifically for the public park space associated with their landscaping and their ground floor uses. The CRA is administrating that program with a redevelopment agreement with the developer. And the first third of that incentive has already been funded. $330,000 was awarded to the developers of the Celeste for meeting the first criteria for achievement. The City Garage was another Broward program that was coordinated through the CRA. The redevelopment capital program loan with a starting balance in 2004 of $2,590,000. In 2019, the balance of that debt was $1,900,000, and it was reduced to a balance of $621,000 in 2019. And in 2021, the remaining balance of $538,000 was reduced to zero. Now, the criteria for that reduction was basically the growth of the tax base in the CRA to offset the balance of that loan. And a lot of people would think, yes, well, it's obvious. Dania Point has been such a growth. But I will point out to you, that debt was started before the CRA was expanded. So all the growth that was attributed to reducing and converting the loan to grant was not Dania Point. It was all done within the original boundaries of the CRA. I'd also point out to you that the Dania Beach Business Academy is designed to assist our businesses to be more successful. The IP to Market program and Startup FIU is all about trying to help train our business and prepare our community to attract new businesses. Next slide, please. So I invite you to think about the map of the CRA district. And to the far left side, that is actually the area of Dania Point. That light green color is actually the site of Dania Point. We also span basically the east and west boundaries going out Dania Beach Boulevard, as well as the north-south boundaries from Griffin Road to Sheridan Street. Next slide, please. So starting to our far western boundary, Dania Point, that is a regional anchor development, and they describe themselves as the city within a city. Next slide, please. It is a place where you can go for entertainment and dining. Everything from the events they hold to the kind of participating engagement with Bolero and those types of venues, the improv and so forth, as well as it has actually some of the finest dining choices in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Next slide, please. And of course, you can't neglect Dania Point as a shopping and services destination with brand names such as BrandsMart and Hobby Lobby, GNC. I mean, there they all are. This explains why this is a regional destination that is centered in not just Dania Beach, but in the CRA. Next slide, please. So going back to remind you of the district map again, and I mentioned to you that the CRA encompasses both east and west going out Dania Beach Boulevard, as well as north and south from Griffin Road to Sheridan Street. Next slide, please. So Dania Beach Boulevard and the West First Avenue corridor. Of course, We have another of our regional destinations on the east end of Dania Beach Boulevard, being the Dania Beach Casino. I guess they call themselves formerly the Casino at Dania Beach. It also is a corridor of multiple shopping centers, kind of Publix, and we have a number of stores and so forth to serve the communities out in the east end of Dania Beach, as well as new residential, the existing one being the Place at the southeast corner of Federal Highway and Dania Beach Boulevard. And then we have West First Avenue, which is a new focal point of our arts and entertainment district. Next slide, please. If you look at our Federal Highway corridor, you can't ignore the progress and development that occurred there. There's just two of the hotels. I think in total, there's probably 4 new hotels on the Federal Highway corridor, and we're soon to be having our 5th with the construction of the Embassy Suites underway, but also rehab of buildings and the adaptive reuse of buildings and so forth along that corridor. Next slide, please. So the next piece is we're getting into the future. This is the CRA plan update. This is where you've all had a chance to put in your priorities and your objectives for the CRA and to identify how the CRA should be expanding, the type of activities and things that it should be addressing. So we have, of course, the existing CRA facade grant. And in fact, the first, since my being here, is on your agenda for tonight. That is with the Ornamental Iron Group, basically across the street. But we also want to find other ways to support our businesses, and that was the objective of the Business Academy. The idea is to take every one of our businesses and find ways to help them be more successful and do a better job at serving our public and our customers and our residents. Also on our agenda is to actually evolve an outdoor cafe system, particularly along the arts and entertainment corridor that is emerging along West First Avenue. We actually have some money in our budget now, but we will be working with the existing businesses to figure out how to tie the private sector environment to the public sector environment that's going to be improved. And with that, of course, we're looking for outdoor dining and active ground floor uses. We also look to work closely with BSO for law enforcement, and we're calling it a law enforcement partnership. And this is everything from working with them on proactive measures for security of our corridors, our businesses, and our neighborhoods. And also to work with them in our business community to deal with some of the homeless issues that was a repeated conversation in the discussion with VHB at the January workshop. So I've already initiated some conversation with Captain Marks. We're going to try to find out how the CRA can best support and engage with BSO to make their programs and efforts more effective. Next slide, please. We are also looking to, find better ways to promote the programs that the CRA has. Everything from one of the things we did here is between our business investment manager and myself, we will dedicate ourselves and see that every business along the Federal Highway and Dania Beach Boulevard corridor is visited, as well as continue our outreach across the entire range of businesses in the CRA to develop working relationships, identify what their ambitions, what their needs are, and what can the CRA be doing to help them accomplish their objectives and goals. Okay. We also will be working to step up our engagement of potential opportunities to attract and expand businesses, specifically businesses associated with Port Everglades or Port Everglades Association, the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, uh, technology businesses, hospitality businesses, and of course, affordable housing. Affordable housing is a business that we need to be more actively engaged with and properly support to get more results for the community. Next slide, please. We also want to be more active, and I've mentioned this in safety and security, but here's some other measures that we've talked about. We want to work with BSO, excuse me, the first part, in the VHB presentation in the January workshop, they presented their idea that was developed specifically for our CRA plan update. And that was the idea of doing LED backlit signs that could be mounted on FDOT posts across their corridors. So we will work with VHB and actually look to install those signs that seem to have captured your attention and imagination. We'll work to do that to create an arts and entertainment marker up and down Federal Highway to kind of promote and advertise what we're doing in that corridor. We also will work with, basically, we want to work with BSO to install cameras and monitors along the Northwest First Street corridor from Federal Highway to Bryan Road. There was a lot of conversation about concerns of security in our neighborhoods, perhaps some illicit activities. I won't go into the range of possible discussions there, but part of that is to see if we can install camera and monitoring systems so that it will have an impact on reducing crime, and at the very least, as crime occurs, we'll have a record of it and will help with the apprehension and containment of crime along that corridor. And with that reputation of being more effective to catch the criminals that are active there, over the time, it will also reduce the criminal activities along that corridor. We will work with BSO and IT for that project. We also will work with the city and finance department on how the use of ARPA funds that were specifically earmarked for the CRA to identify things. And one of the ideas in the draft CRA plan update is to develop a grant program for the rehab of residential houses. And we talked about it specifically about how to do a program that will strengthen our housing stock against weather activities, everything from roof systems to hurricane-proof windows, hurricane straps, and safety and mobility issues, accessibility issues that are associated with some of our older housing stock. That is a new program that we will talk with you about in terms of doing some kind of a matching grant program on that. That has some similarities in concept to the facade grant, but dedicated to residential properties. We will continue to look to build low income and workforce affordable housing in the CRA. As I just discussed tonight, we are actually making progress with 2 units that were achieved just recently with the rehab of that duplex. But we look to work with the industry and take advantage of programs and bring programs to Dania Beach that will allow us to accelerate the delivery of low income and workforce affordable housing in the community. And the last piece of this, again, the ARPA funds that are actually tied to the CRA are also there and allow us to use them for the development of businesses, whether it's business incentives, business attraction, business expansion. we will put together programs to bring to you for your consideration, for you to design. Well, we'll provide a recommendation for structure and limitations, but of course you have the opportunity to weigh in and tell us how you want it to be finalized in terms of adopting programs. But we look to bring more of these to you so we can be more actively supportive of attracting businesses into our federal highway corridor. Next slide, please. Working with partners to promote the city and the CRA is an important part of this. I've included a lot of the logos of various organizations that we have effective working relationships with currently. We will continue to develop our relationship with these people, to develop outreach about branding efforts, about programs that we have to offer, and things that we're doing in Dania Beach that supports both our housing, our quality of life, and finally our businesses through these resources. We'll also look to add more logos over time. Next slide, please. There's other types of relationships as well. And I just brought to you one this evening in my admin report about trying to support the Dania Beach Chamber of Commerce by working with them for advertising in their upcoming publication. But we also will continue to work closely with Broward County Housing and Development Department, as well as the Broward County Office of Economic and Small Business Development. That's why there's two Broward logos on this slide. Two major departments that's very important to our activities and what we need to accomplish. We also want to have a more effective outreach to the Florida legislature to get our hands on state monies that will be to the benefit of the CRA and the city, Port Everglades, PEA, and some of our lobby agencies as well. Next slide, please. Which is the segue straight into grant funding. We look to be more active in identifying sources of money out there that has the chance to be applied for and attracted to the benefit of Dania Beach and the CRA for our residents and our businesses. So we are interested in establishing relationships with our city lobbyists. This is what I'm proposing is kind of a new or certainly a more active relationship with that group to help us identify local grants that could be available to our programs. The Ron Book firm, who are specialists at the state level, will be looking to develop a more effective relationship with them, again, to identify, support, and attract more state money that can come to our programs. And then finally with the Gabaton Group, which is on the federal level, identifying programs that are out there at the federal agency level that can be brought to bear to Dania Beach. And a good example of that, we've already had a success of that just recently, is the ARPA funds. We work closely with that to get a higher allocation of ARPA funds for the CRA. Okay. We also need to be more collaborative across the city departments because several of our city departments already have grant writers within their divisions. And we would look to work closer with them to see how we can either piggyback on top of what they're identifying, as well as how to support them to be more successful in what they're applying for. And so we look to apply for grants to assist our residents, businesses, and law enforcement that are active in our CRA. And part of this is what I talked about. At the very least, we need to be providing the support so all those who are working on our behalf can be more effective with that. Because when you apply for grants, the more information you can provide them about what justifies your needs, the more successful you are at getting the grants. Next slide, please. So somewhat discussed already tonight, but So we've got to figure out how it gets implemented in a smooth and transitional manner. We do recommend that we move the events, activities, and public arts to the city administration. But again, this is not suggesting that we just leave it at their doorstep and walk away. I have actually included in here that it does require us to work with them and to assist in the transition for being able to accommodate and take over those activities. Next slide, please. So the last piece of this is, of course, everything I'm talking about is going to have an effect on on staffing. And my recommendation right now is that we simply hold the status quo. And that specifically means that we don't go out and recruit to fill Keisha's position. We basically leave that where it is today. And then as we are actually able to bring you programs, the new grants, the new incentives, the new programs and activities, again, shaped and structured with your participation and approval. We then evaluate what's the role for us in some of these activities. So I talked about collaborative relationships with BSO for some of those activities, as well as how do we work with the industries of low income and workforce affordable housing. What's the role that those people are looking for the CRA to play with them? How do we best support them to be successful in Dania Beach? Then evaluate what kind of skill sets, what kind of time, what kind of activities will we need to be doing. And with that, we would look to bring to you suggestions for either staffing or perhaps revising the description, the job descriptions and so forth, so that we have the opportunity to replace staffing based on skills and experiences that will both, I guess, best suit the kind of activities that you're looking for us to do through the future. So next slide, please. With that, I just wanted to kind of indicate through this that we were paying attention to the conversations in the January workshop. We tried to identify where were your objectives? How did you engage with the draft plan and the suggestions and so forth, the draft plan, and try to figure out how we could get in front of this so that as we go into the adoption of the updated CRA plan, how can the CRA hit the ground running to actually implement and start to be successful in bringing those to realities? And with that, of course, I'm open for your questions.
Thank you, Director Chen. Thank you for the presentation, preparing it. Board Member James?
Yes. I would like to see just a page of what's new in it, because a lot of this seems like stuff that we know we worked through. I saw a few new things that not sure if it should be labeled as new. Like, have we applied for grants? We've never applied for grants or anything in the past, and we haven't used like our lobbyists and Josh Gabaton and the people that work with the city. Like, that's something that we haven't done that you're saying now you want to do?
Well, I think there's been somewhat limited participation with those, but I know since I've been here, I have had some active engagement working with Frank and his relationship with some of this. And part of this has resulted in the expansion of some ARPA funds that has come to the CRA.
Outside of
Right.
ARPA, I'm talking about specifically Ron Book, Josh Gabaton, the grant
Yeah.
writers, the lobbyists. Like, what has the CRA done with any of these in the past? Because these are long-standing relationships that we've had with them.
Yeah, as far as I can, at least there has been very limited engagement, if any, with those existing resources. And I'm saying it needs to happen. We need to develop effective relationships
Why
so
haven't
that
we
we
done
can
it?
take advantage of it.
Why haven't we done that in the past couple of years?
Well, there's been a lot of things that we have been doing. And a lot of it has been trying to figure out how we engage from roughly 30 to 35% of the plan being addressed to getting more of the plan addressed. Everything from the business aspects to the infrastructure and so forth that was in the plan that wasn't being done when I first got here. So there's
Okay,
been a
if-
lot of trying to position the CRA to actually accomplish what the plan has said that we should be doing.
Okay, if you don't mind, could you get us a list of the new things that are in this plan? Because it seems like it's not a lot of things that are in this plan that are new. Like I said, the lobbyists and Ron and Josh, those are people that have been here for
Yeah.
years, since before I've even been here. And so to not have a relationship with them is a little concerning for me. But I would like to see, I mean, because that was a lot of stuff like you just telling us about the branding that we already knew of, the dang point that we already know of, but things that are going to actually change in the plan, the action parts of it. I would like to like see a concentrated effort at that because it was sporadic throughout the presentation. I would appreciate that.
I saw a few things that were new, like the vertical signs and the backlights on
Yeah, that's
Federal
what I said.
Highway.
We saw a couple of things that we've already discussed.
Yeah, I know you brought it up, but now it looks like they're trying to do a more of an action plan, the 90-day action plan. So, I like what you said about the CRA and BSO law enforcement partnership. That seems like a positive idea. And obviously, you talked about the facade and outdoor dining grant, but now it's coming back to the surface. So some of these were new ideas, and they're also old ideas that kind of went away, and we're trying to bring it back to the forefront.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you for getting me that.
Board Member Davis?
Yes, thank you for your presentation, Michael. I might have missed it, but I didn't know if this presentation was the one where you were gonna present the properties and everything that are available in the CRA to the board, or if that was for another time.
Actually, there is a section that's for discussion on your agenda tonight, where
Oh.
we're talking about 3 unbuildable properties. It was not part of this presentation.
Okay, I just remember.
Yeah,
having-
it's there, but it's not on this particular subject.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Director Chen.
Thank you.
All right, now to the consent agenda. I know Vice Chair is not here. Is there anything anybody wishes to pull from the? Okay. Board Member James would like to pull 5.3 from the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Do we have discussion on this?
Well, I'll make a motion first. I guess you discuss it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 5.3.
Do I have a second? Second from from Board Member Salvino. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor, would you like me to read the title for 5.3?
Please.
It is to approve the commercial facade grant for ornamental home design located at 102 North Federal Highway for the lesser amount of 50% of the final construction cost, as evidenced by paid receipts or $25,000. It is the facade grant program limit.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
Board Member
you.
James, you wanted this pulled?
Yes, I want to discuss it a little bit. Is this different from the regular facade grant that we have, correct, Mr. Chan?
No, this is compliant to the existing facade grant program.
This is the same one. So what are we changing on this?
I'm sorry, there's no change on it. It's just we have an application and it's here for you to approve or not approve the
got it.
application.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not the program. It is the actual application that's
All
on
right.
the agenda.
I was misinformed. Thank you. Well, I'll make a motion to approve 5.3.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Please note that motion 5.3 has been approved. Okay, we don't have any proposals and bids. All right, for item 7.1, discussion and possible action. Eve, please read it.
I will. Just note, staff is withdrawing the second resolution here, which is resolution 2023-CRA-004. So I will read the remaining item, which is resolution 2023 CRA 003. Is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the CRA authorizing the sale of CRA-owned properties located 524 Northwest 3rd Terrace and the southwest corner of Old Griffin Road, Northwest 4th Avenue in Dania Beach. These properties to the city of Dania Beach for the purpose of using the parcels as neighborhood parks, authorizing the proper city official to execute the deed and related documents for the properties for this purpose, providing for conflicts and an effective date.
Director Chen?
Okay, these two properties that remain under discussion here, this was brought to you actually starting back in December. And because of the public notice requirement of our interest to dispose of property, that's why it's taken until February to come back to you. These properties were described as being undersized and therefore unbuildable. And there's actually, just for your information on it, there's two ways to describe this as unbuildable. And one of them is the table on my memo shows that under current zoning regulations, the property has to be 60 feet wide to be built upon by rights. And the two properties that are under discussion with you tonight, one of them is 38 feet wide, and the other is a somewhat wedge-shaped piece that goes from 31 feet to 57 feet. But not only are these dimensions under by rights development standards, but the physical dimensions themselves make them a challenge to consider putting any type of structure on those properties, and that's why I've described them as unbuildable. There have been discussions with the Parks Department, as well, excuse me, and Community Development about how these parcels could be used as small mini parks in the neighborhoods to expand the green space available to our residents. So that's the core of the subject.
You're on.
The first property, on Southwest Third Terrace, is this a safe property to have as a park? And what type of park would we have? Because I know it's by those lines, correct?
I'm sorry.
Is it in the area by those lines ahead?
Oh, the
Yeah.
overhead lines? I don't think that this is in any immediate proximity of the substation and so forth in that area.
No, not the substation, the FPNL lines, property. You familiar with the property? It's right by Old Griffin. It's all the power lines up there. It's the vacant property that's right there. This is the one that you're talking about, correct?
That's Old Griffin and Fourth Ave, right?
No, I'm talking about Northwest Third Terrace.
Northwest Third Terrace is actually within the community, but part of the reason that it's a challenge and it's put up here, not only does it have the dimensions, but it's also a corner property in the neighborhood. If you were to try to figure out how to put a structure on it, it would actually be something that's built basically right on top of the street, which would be unsightly and frankly is a hazard to both the house as well as sight lines for traffic and so forth.
I know I'm asking about the power lines. I'm not asking about.
Okay, I'm not aware of any particular
You
power
said it's
line
not there?
issues with any of these properties.
And when you look at the picture, I don't see any power line.
This one?
That's across the street from it.
There's an overhead map associated with the Broward County Property Assessors sheet. Let me see.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at the wrong property, but I put this address in. That's what it comes up.
Okay. Yeah, actually, if you look at there is on the second Broward County Property Assessors folio sheet has a map associated with it that shows the overhead. In fact, the site shows there. It looks like someone has parked their boat on the lot. But in addition to being an extremely narrow piece of land on the corner, it's got an enormous tree that's on there that I think would also be at risk if someone tried to build something on there. And I'm not sure that's to the best interest of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show any particular power line issues in that overhead.
Okay.
No, Director Chen, I think these two pieces of property are perfect for pocket parks of what we're trying to go for. It only makes sense, really. And the one that's on Fourth Ave and the other one that on Third Terrace, that's a corner property. I think it's excellent locations for a tiny little pocket park for people to use and exercise in. Probably put some exercise equipment in there or whatnot.
Is there an action to proceed
I
with?
make a motion, we proceed with this, with the sale of the property.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? None opposed. Please let it be known that item 7.1 has been passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now to board member comments. We will start with Board Member Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say a huge congratulations to the CRA. I was able to attend the Smart Growth Awards where the patch was recognized. We did have some of our staff members, all of the CRA was there, and we were recognized among some of the top innovative cities and what they're doing, whether it was for transportation or whether it was for the patch or public art. The Smart Growth Awards brought together a great group of people, and our patch was recognized among that for the innovation that we have here, right here in our city. So congratulations to the CRA for that. And with that, we'll end my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Davis. Board Member James.
No comments tonight, thank you.
All right. Board Member Salvino.
Yes, I'd like to just say happy Valentine's Day to everybody. That's all
All
my
right.
comments.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. Vice Chair Llewellyn.
Thanks. I'm going to reserve my comments for the city commission meeting. Thank you.
Wonderful. And yes, I do not have any comments as well. Good meeting. Meeting adjourned.